diffuse beneath the sand. Long before the missiles, before the headlines and hashtags, the ground was already shifting. Proxy conflicts flared quietly. In Syria, in Iraq, in cyberspace. Each strike unclaimed, each death denied. Yet every move marked territory on a global chessboard. Red lines and silent agreements. For decades, red lines were drawn, then crossed. Nuclear ambitions in Tehran met cyber sabotage from Tel Aviv. Covert operations met sanctions from Washington. Behind every warning was a whisper, "We won't let them go too far." But no one agreed on where too far was. Flashpoint, Jerusalem. It started with a strike no one admitted to. A scientist vanished. A facility exploded. Within hours, the world watched as Israel's Iron Dome lit up the sky. Not in defense, but in prelude. Iran vowed revenge. And the United States, caught between history and alliance, moved its fleets. Chapter 4. In the dead of night, warplanes crossed borders. Drones danced like ghosts. Cities like Haifa and Isfahan became battlefields. U.S. forces surged into the Gulf, not to occupy, but to contain. But what burns in one corner of the world does not stay contained for long. The war no one won. As the dust settled, maps changed. Alliances broke. The global economy trembled. Millions displaced. And yet no flag stood taller. No side claimed victory. Because some wars are not fought for land, but for fear, pride, and prophecy. The cyber front. Before the bombs came the blackouts. Power grids failed without warning. Bank systems froze. Military networks were breached. Neither side claimed responsibility. But everyone knew the war had already started in code, in silence, in the dark. Oil, oaths, and open water. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow artery of global trade, became a graveyard. Tankers burned, shipping halted, oil prices surged, dragging fragile economies to the brink. Allies were tested, enemies were made, and the U.S. Navy was given orders no one wanted to give. Clear the strait at all costs. Allies in Ashes Europe called for restraint. The UN pleaded for diplomacy. But on the ground, the world was splitting. Russia and China chose silence until they didn't. Arms flowed east and west. Old Cold War lines were redrawn. In the Middle East, in the Pacific, even in space, the homeland trembles. For the first time in generations, war came home. Cyber attacks paralyzed U.S. cities. Civil unrest grew. Anti-war protests filled the streets as politicians scrambled to contain a war they no longer controlled. Surveillance increased. Freedoms shrank. The homeland was defended. But at what cost? The nuclear question, it was never supposed to happen. Nuclear deterrence was a relic, until it wasn't. Satellite images, leaked briefings, unconfirmed launches. Suddenly, the unthinkable was being planned in backrooms and bunkers. Each nation promised it would never be first. But someone, somewhere, was ready to be last. Children of the aftermath. When the missiles stopped, the silence was louder than any explosion. Cities lay shattered, cultures scarred, generations displaced. From Tel Aviv to Tehran, from New York to Dubai, children were born into a world their parents failed to protect. And they would ask, why? In a closed-door meeting, a new doctrine was born. Not peace, not diplomacy. Retaliation without hesitation. Israel declared its right to preemptive strikes. Iran vowed total resistance. And the United States, caught between allies and adversaries, hardened its stance. Any attack on one is an attack on all. And just like that, the final piece fell into place. The war was no longer regional. South Asia braced for impact. Europe armed its borders. The Pacific trembled as alliances shifted. Minor nations became major players and pawns. War economies surged. Civil liberties dissolved. The world, once interconnected by trade and technology, now connected only by fear. Cities of silence: Tehran, Tel Aviv, Riyadh, Baghdad, names that once rang with ancient life and modern fire, now whispered in loss. Entire skylines collapsed into dust. Hospitals overrun, water poisoned, satellites captured images, but the world turned away. The humanitarian cost was beyond numbers, beyond politics. beyond repair. The last broadcasts. In the war's final days, journalists became targets. Truth censored. Satellites jammed. Only fragments of broadcasts remained. Voices pleading for peace. Images of fathers carrying children. Mothers digging through rubble. Across social media, the world saw everything and could do nothing. The Council of Ashes. When the war finally halted, not with surrender, but with exhaustion, a new council was formed. Survivors, refugees, scientists, soldiers. They gathered in a fractured Geneva, not to assign blame, but to ask one question: can we survive ourselves?